Well, welcome. It's right at the noon hour. This is going to be a quick overview. We just have a few people online. Uh, my name is Mike Melanowski. I'm president of the Streamline Institute, which is an organization that is working to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of permitting right now in the Sacramento Valley region. Our program called PASS is the subject of this webinar, which is intended to provide a quick overview both for participants in the PASS program that are continuing on, and actually had extended an invitation to others who might want to get a sort of a high-level overview of the PASS program. So let's just jump in. PASS is an acronym for Pre-Qualified Architectural Submittal System, and it's a program based on document content and organization, intended to make the permitting process more efficient and effective. It started with some ongoing programs and participation by two organizations. At its core, is the result of design professionals and code professionals working together, trying to find ways to each of us take care of our responsibilities and roles in a more efficient and effective way. This is sort of the new economic reality coming out of the recession. And of course, it's important to acknowledge that permit streamlining is not just about speed, because after all, you could abandon processes and then things go faster, and that isn't the mission of the Streamline Institute or the PASS program. There were ad hoc committees established at the AI Central Valley chapter and Sacramento Valley Association of Billing Officials, and actually just recently the AI Central Valley has sort of initiated a more focused effort to try and improve how PASS serves both design professionals as well as regional jurisdictions and ultimately the citizenry. It's about really working together. This is a photo of one of our early development meetings, most of which were hosted by Gene Paolini in Roseville when he was chief billing official. Sort of an elevator pitch, if you needed one, to describe PASS might relate to the TSA program. And those of you who fly, whether you belong to TSA as a member or not, you occasionally, of course, get the TSA pre-check. But some people actually pay the $85 and go through the I'm getting notes here in the office that I inadvertently had my screen share turned off. Sorry about that. This is a new program, and kind of I think it's going to be very helpful in the future. But anyway, we're talking about the TSA pre-check program as a great way to, kind of give an elevator pitch. Just like TSA pre-check, that doesn't mean you don't go through a check, and PASS doesn't mean you don't go through plan review, but hopefully if both programs are operating properly, it's a more efficient and effective process. But just like TSA pre-check, it's a privilege. And if it's abused or not managed properly by the participants, you're going to get bumped out of the program. And PASS has a similar check and balance program or aspect built into it. The way PASS is intended to work takes the normal plan review process and shortens it by speeding up plan check. If it's coupled with an add-on program that we call one and done, where there's a pre-agreed upon effort on part of both jurisdictional members as well as the design professional to minimize multiple plan checks, in theory, it can result in extremely fast plan review. And actually, we have some early examples of feedback of this occurring recent project that went through Roseville was reported to have been very effective in cutting the time and effort on the part of both the plan review staff as well as the design professional. The Streamline Institute has a web presence. It's a nonprofit 501c3 dedicated to supporting efficient and effective permit streamlining. It has a board of directors that has both people here in the Central Valley, but also far from that, so from Southern California to the Washington, D.C. area, New York City, even Oregon, but all both code professionals as well as design professionals and regulatory experts. So past compliance submittals are those that are based on the use of the checklist and reference to the examples that come from the training program. But most importantly, there's an extra check by the past design professional for completeness before they're submitted. And it's important to also realize that pass is not one person's opinion, so it's not like one particular design professional decided what every other design professional should be doing. It's really a consensus program where lots of different real projects were reviewed and examples were articulated by both plan review professionals and design professionals. So in diagram form, start with the fact that it's a volunteer program. It's meant to be inclusive, so any individual that can legally sign for a commercial building project can participate in PASS, including engineers, design build contractors, interior designers, and they would be participating based on their legal ability to be responsible for a commercial building project of a particular type. So for example, an interior designer would not be able to sign a PASS certificate for a new construction commercial project. Those participating do need to be knowledgeable about code and construction documents. It also involves participation in the training by plan review professionals so that they have a familiarity with what are the standards that are supposed to be expressed in a PASS set of documents. And those standards are articulated with the hundreds of slides that make up the PASS training program. The focus is on document content and organization. PASS training does not intend to cover technical application of the code or code interpretation or code application. Those are areas that design professionals should already be familiar with, and this is not an entry-level training program. Those who take the class, they take a test with 75% pass rate, then the design professional can go on to the registry for either the TI level of the program or the NC level of the program. And those are the individuals who can sign the PASS submittal block when a set of plans come in. There are also registries online for the individuals from the jurisdictions who participate in PASS, as well as jurisdictional consultants. And the jurisdictional consultants are there to both help jurisdictions that participate as well as jurisdictions that may want to adopt PASS but don't have someone on staff who has become familiar with the program. So when a set of plans is meant to go through the PASS system, the PASS logo should be either part of the document package on the cover sheet or somewhere in the front part, or it could be that the checklist with the logo is bundled with the plans. The intake triage is meant to be limited just to verifying that the person who signed the PASS certificate is in fact part of the PASS program and is qualified for the level of project or the type of project that's being submitted. It is important to recognize also that there's a planned consistency, so that of the 18 current jurisdictions, which cover most of the jurisdictions in the Sacramento region, counties and cities, they all have adopted the exact same program. So the PASS experience is really meant to be the same no matter what jurisdiction you're working with. All PASS jurisdictions will accept any size commercial or multifamily project under the PASS NC program, and that also includes additions and major alterations. TI and small commercial projects can use the PASS TI program, and that's true at all the participating PASS jurisdictions. We recommend that for any PASS submittal, that prior to making the submittal, that the participating design professional first make contact with that jurisdiction through the person who is on the PASS jurisdictional registry, which is online, just to make sure that when they bring the plans in, they'll be interacting with someone familiar with the PASS program. Especially in large jurisdictions, not every individual at the jurisdiction would necessarily even know about PASS and what it meant. The whole idea is that PASS plans, when submitted, are reviewed by someone who understands the PASS program, its intent, and sort of the spirit and also the detail behind it. Those are also the individuals who determine whether a PASS submittal is compliant. So remember, with bypassing intake triage, the first close look the plans are going to get is by that plan reviewer. So the built-in check and balances is that if a set of PASS plans is submitted that in fact does not meet the PASS standards, that plan reviewer can flag that submittal and 3 faults, and the person could potentially lose their standing in the PASS program and have to start over in the process. Here it is all sort of in one diagram, sort of the philosophy behind how the PASS program operates. Reference materials for those participating in the class are all available on the Streamline Institute website. And if you type streamlineinstitute.com or streamlineinstitute.org, you should get to the exact same place. We have both domains just to avoid any potential confusion. If you use the /PASS, it takes you to kind of a one-page summary page. But if you just log in on the general website, it's one of the menu items at the top. That's where all the program content is. And those who have taken the training have access to the checklist, the TI checklist, in both XLS and PDF form. Password for the TI program is 1507. For the NC program, it's 1701. Those are the year and date and month that each of those respective programs were launched. By the way, that's how those passwords came up. If you forget the password, but you're around in 2015 in July when we launched the TI program, that's how that's what those numbers came from. Also online are the full slide decks. So for those who want in their firm to use the slide decks as a reference tool, either in their own evaluation of how to convey information, maybe they're working on a project type they haven't used before. We had a wide range of project type examples in developing the PASS decks, slide decks. May be helpful to use those as a reference. They could also be used, I would think, in a larger firm as training materials to help emerging design professionals get more knowledgeable about organization and content of technical documents, which of course again vary significantly to some degree by firm. And those realities are reflected in PASS. The program is intended to reflect how project delivery happens today and in our marketplace, and respecting that there are many different business and operational models, both on design professional part as well as on the part of jurisdictions. It's based on a belief that we can do more with less on both sides of the counter, even though right now PASS is focused on the plan review part of the overall landscape of project delivery. We believe there are benefits that are going to be realized in other parts of the life of a project during the construction, for example. A better organized set of documents helps with field inspection, it helps with constructability, and then down the road, even years later, could help with repurpose or alteration of a building when it's reached that point in its life cycle where it needs to be altered or potentially even adapted to some new use. PASS plans may take a little bit more thought and a little more effort. Some PASS participants, though, are finding that they're already doing pretty much everything that's requested of PASS participants. PASS participating design professionals are really in a point where they can choose whether to use the pass approach or some other approach. Just because you're part of the pass program does not mean you have to use it for all your submittals. It's intended to be optional, and hopefully at some point on the customer side of the equation, developers or whoever it is that's retaining the services of a design professional, hopefully they value the pass approach enough that it involves additional cost and effort that the benefits are greater than the cost. But there is no jeopardy to a pass participant if they are not using the pass system, although we would like to see greater use of pass. In fact, the AIA Central Valley is in the process of taking a close look at why pass is not more widely used by the professional. And we've already gotten early feedback that it's simply because the benefits are not clear enough to the participating design professionals. So it may require jurisdictions to be more specific. Placer County, for example, has already unilaterally offered a free plan expedite for anyone using the pass system in a submittal, and I believe that other jurisdictions may be willing to consider that same sort of incentive. So the submittal checklist is an outline of document content or organization, but it's important to recognize it's not rigid. It allows there to be a use of style. It has 4 parts. Who's the design professional, the project. Part 3 is going to vary significantly by jurisdiction. Hopefully the PASS platform ultimately allows for the kind of dialogue and coordination that could start to minimize differences between jurisdictions, but right now that's not part of what we're trying to do with PASS. And then part 4 is really the heart of the program. That's where you get into the specific drawing requirements, and those who've gone through the training know that the PASS checklist is really quite extensive, and it's meant to cover 85 or 90% of the projects that might be able to be utilized. Providing a copy of the checklist with the final drawing package is a good idea. Just again, it's to demonstrate that someone has taken the time to go through the checklist. And talking to plan review professionals that have worked with the PASS program on real projects, one of the issues that they're finding is, the most often area of challenge is coordination. And we recognize that document packages are extremely complex. They have many parts, lots of detail, multiple authors. How all that material gets coordinated is important. And PASS hopefully at some point becomes one of the platforms where sharing of coordination best practices become possible. But there are some basic principles to coordination that are pretty universal. Using checklists, which across all forms of human endeavor, whether it's airline pilots or complex medical procedures, there's documented evidence that checklists are very helpful in increasing effectiveness. Having a second set of eyes, fresh perspective, minimizing repetition, keeping things as simple as possible, taking the time, and then leveraging the use of technology, for example, clash detection, layer overlays. When a set of plans comes in through PASS, things that could be flag items, if the coordination wasn't done, the various parts and pieces, how well they fit together, if information is outright missing, or code was just blatantly not considered. Those are potential flag items. Things that are not flag items are misunderstandings, misapplication, or differences of interpretation of the code. The code is complicated. Even among code professionals, there are differences in application and interpretation. So the fact that something's determined to not meet code or need to be adjusted, that is not something that would be a flag in the PASS system. So again, this was intended to be a quick overview. I'd be happy to open it up if there are any questions or comments. And this is going to be recorded and then put online so that others can get this quick information, either as a refresher or just to get a quick understanding of what PASS is all about. This quote online: PASS is a collaborative process that increases the efficiency of the permits process, doesn't change existing roles or responsibilities, doesn't increase risk or liability, and is intended to save owners, contractors, developers, and jurisdictions time and money. That was a statement made by one of the participating jurisdictional building officials that I thought really, in one sentence, really summarized what the PASS philosophy and program is all about. Thank you for taking the time. I know we're all busy as the dickens, so taking the time to join us through this quick overview. You can email admin@streamlineinstitute.com or .org and get a response from myself or someone else involved in the PASS ongoing operation and development for any particular questions that you might have. And with that, and if there are no comments or questions, I'll conclude this brief webinar. Thank you again for participating.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me? This is Ed.
Yeah, I hear you, Ed.
So one of the questions I had was, and I sent this to Dane, since this is a voluntary program, is there in the works or something along the lines of what AICC did for the green building code, where they actually produced like a set of CAD files that had documents that would be easily implemented into a drawing set that are standardized specifically for the intake process?
That's actually something that's been on the table from the very beginning. We haven't done that yet and haven't actually moved forward with that, but it is there. The key challenge is just, frankly, Ed, that more professionals aren't using PASS, including those that have been involved in the development of the PASS program going back to 2015. So right now we're at a point where jurisdictions are all sort of grumbling, well, not all of them, but some are grumbling that, hey, why aren't there more people using this program? So that's kind of the key hurdle in this committee that the AICV is going to launch in the next week or two. It's really going to focus on that aspect. So if that group determined that those kinds of tools would be essential to making it sort of the benefit equal to the effort, then that would move that up on the radar. But so far, what's been identified is the lack of measurable benefit to the design professional. Things like what Placer offered, a guaranteed expedited plan review at no cost for those using PASS. If more jurisdictions took that approach, the thought was that that would make a big difference in the short term. And then when more people are using it, then we could move on to the sort of thing that you mentioned, which clearly would be a huge benefit, but there's some significant effort in also putting that together.
Yeah, I think that, and I've not done a PASS program yet either, and I'm looking at trying to implement one, but it just seems like, it's like the initial hurdle of just trying to figure out how to make sure that it's a completed set like they're looking for. So I think it's just a learning process. So I want to make sure I do the right thing. And that's I think the difficult thing is I don't want to submit something if it doesn't feel like it's going to be appropriate for the submitting using the PASS program.
Well, again, the idea of if a package came in, and the jurisdictions so far have all had the attitude that if there is an issue, for example, there was a submittal in Roseville about a year ago. It was the first PASS submittal they got, and they felt that the package really was deficient in terms of coordination. That the overlay of the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, the structure, and the architectural were just not considered, and there was a lot of conflict and challenges. And rather than look at that as a punitive opportunity, they looked at that as a as a learning and communication opportunity. So they actually contacted the design professional. They took the time to explain the challenge, to sort of review what was expected. They didn't issue a flag. In fact, honestly, Ed, there hasn't been a single flag issued since the launch of the program, even though there haven't been a huge number of submittals, but there have been dozens of submittals. And so I think it does not have to be a perfect set. It just has to be a reasonably well-coordinated set is sort of the big challenge. And it could be that your standard set already meets the standards of pass, and you wouldn't really have to do anything other than sign your name to that certificate and make sure that when you submit it, you check with the jurisdiction that they're ready to accept the pass submittal. A recent one that went through Roseville, they were so excited. It was a large, complicated medical office facility. It was the largest and most complex project that had come in under the pass banner, and it came in under the NC banner, which is sort of the highest standard. And they were excited about getting it. They did their initial review in record time, like within a couple weeks. It had gone through the whole process. It had a very modest set of comments. They were responded to quickly, and so they issued an email just a few days ago how excited they were, like, hey, this is really working. And so we need more stories like that. So if you do have an experience, whether it's positive or negative, I hope you'll share it with us.
One last question. Just in terms of keeping my certification, or anybody that's going to be continuing their certification, what's the process? How do you, I mean, is there an annual fee? Is there retesting? What's the process for maintaining your
Well, you're actually current. You did pay. There is an annual fee which we keep at a modest level. There isn't really a requirement for continued training, but I expect that at some there will be some thresholds when there will be requirements, when there are changes to the checklist or significant issues that we realize, oh, this is something that needs to be addressed, then we will have some training. But right now that isn't a requirement. So it's really just about just keeping current.
All right. Well, thanks.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate the questions too. It's like I said, it's new to me to be using an online platform like this. It's a little awkward and much more fun to do an in-person meeting.
No, you did great.
Oh, thanks. This is the future. And in fact, we're going to move the training all to online going forward. So I need to get used to it, and others do as well.
Yeah, it's helpful just because sometimes people can't make an in-person meeting, and if there was some way to do it, virtually, it's kind of nice to do it from an office environment.
That's what we're going. So again, thanks for your support and your participation, Ed, and your questions. Very helpful. And this will be online in the future. I hope you're okay with that, including I'd like to leave your questions in there too, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Sounds great. I'll close out now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.